Oh, hi. I'm just going to start, and this one is by. Actually, let me just paste the name. I'll probably only focus on one or two things per painting. There's really no point in making too many suggested changes anyway. So we'll look at the anatomy first. There's a lot of these details, like this right here. And then there's this bump, which is the rotation on the shoulder blade and the muscle that wraps around it. And then this is like the divide between the top two abs. But it's a little bit high. I think it's supposed to be a little bit like down here. But when you start putting details like this, it's best if you get the overall shapes very accurate before you start putting in any details. Because if you're putting details in the wrong locations, then it really doesn't matter too much. So that's why I want to look at the overall structure of the anatomy first. Option disperser. I made a feed for just the feedbacks. I don't know if I can get through all of them. That's why I'm streaming some of them right now. But there is, and then there's also the normal feedback section that anybody can just go in and try to help you out. So we'll ignore details like these, like anatomical landmarks that isn't as prominent. Let me zoom out a little bit. So typically I like the rib cage, place the rib cage first, and then let me use a different color for the spine. And then with the spine, we can then place the pelvic bone, the structure in. Like it's easier to determine how it rotates or how it twists if you label the spine first, or at least for me. Then we can see if the hips line up with the shoulders and like basic proportions. So let's see. So off the bat, it looks like the perspective is a bit weird on the arms here, and that could be because of shading or like if you have things that wrap around the arm, it kind of act like a surface contour, like a structural like surface contour that wraps around like a cylinder. So if you have stuff like this, then it's easy to tell the perspective of something. And also, if it's wrong, then it's easy to tell if something is a bit off. And I think when you raise your arms like this, usually your elbows tends to point forward instead of point like directly up. Like if you try to put your hand up, put your arms up above your head, it's hard to get the elbows to line up flat against like to the direction of your head. So you're basically uh, doing like lateral raises. But if you're holding a sword like that, usually the elbow would point forward. So I'm gonna keep the layer really dim so that I'm not influenced by the lines on the original painting as much. So I typically don't like to change the pose of the original painting if I'm doing critique because I might get the intent wrong, but in this case, she's holding a sword, so clearly we can fix the pose a bit to do the same function. So that's approximately right for, I think, how the arm should be angled. But because this is pointing forward, we should have contour lines that go like this. If we see the original one, it's going kind of flat. That means this is pointing straight up instead of towards the front. So this one can actually point to the side and forward because the character is facing a bit to the right. And then now we can do the arm to the sword. Let's do the sword over here. And then we'll have a stronger foreshortening on the forearm. And then this forearm is pretty much sideways from the viewing angle. See, like, I'm not worried about details like these because I want to just get the pose correct. There's some landmarks that I would choose to put in. But some we can ignore, at least for now. If you want to add it later, you can. I mean, I guess the direction of the leg doesn't matter too much here. So there's like the skirt. So I think this is the major thing I would fix here for posing. The chest is a little lower than how it's drawn right now. Like we need some space between the top view rib top section of the rib cage. I think this is still too high. Bring it down a little bit. And then because we're at this angle, we'll have that protrusion from the last area or the lower part of the rib before it gets to the external obliques. Yeah, so the change is not huge here, but I think the pose makes more sense. Let me reply to that. I don't even know how to reply to that. Ooh. I'm glad that they can understand a little bit. So I'm going to try to check the lighting on this piece real fast. So let's change the pose on this a little bit, like I've redlined here. Mm. Okay, let's just get rid of that. I'm not worried about the accessories too much right now. But God, I'm lagging. The hand is also in like a. Is the hand reversed? Yeah, the hand is reversed. So if we look at it here, the thumb is the other way. So your palm is supposed to be open on top. Like this right here. Mm, would be in the front, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, in this position, the pinky would have to be extended a little bit to kind of press against the handle, hilt. But the thumb should be the other way around, or the whole hand should be the other way around. Kind of like this one. The other one's correct. Yeah, it's a pretty easy fix because the silhouette's the same. Kind of have to flip the length of the finger maybe a little bit, but it's like over painting over would be a simple fix. But let me continue with the overpaint or paint over. I'm just gonna do it on one there. It's easier for me. So there's this light here that's when you put details like this, that means like I would put stuff like that if I make sure that everything else is pretty much lined up. And with stuff like this, you can tell which way the light source is coming from. Like the only way for light to hit that and this would be if the light is coming down this way, right? Light's coming down this way. Maybe here. Which makes no sense for this to be dark unless there's something else blocking. We just assume that there's something else blocking, but that's go with that. But I think if it will hit here, it's going to hit a lot more places. normal. Normal voice. I don't know. And then erase this. So objects like this, where it's like a very clear shape, it should have a very sharp cast shadow, especially in like very strong lighting like this. I would play with the shadow a bit if I'm drawing something like this. There's a lot of smaller shapes here, like design shapes. I think it's better if you get the lighting correct first and then add shapes, because if you start adding shapes and then try to get the lighting after, it's really hard to stay consistent with like the smaller shapes as you move down. Light is really hard to, or it's going to be really hard to hit the tip of the nose because she's kind of tilting down and the light is almost straight up and down. But we'll keep that. And then the perspective of the face a little bit too. The neck is a little bit too back. And now I'm digging into details a little bit. This arm is really long. And I think we need to move this down a little bit. I think I lined it up with. I don't know which layer to put it in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, flipping the canvas does that. Let me double check my progress. So yeah, I think this pose is a bit more natural for holding the sword than this. We can put in a bit of contour to make sure that the foreshortening is correct. Or easier to read. Not correct, but we can leave this one and then just uh because this has a volume, we can put a little bit of light on it. I mean, I don't want to deal with the design too much, but And then sometimes I like anatomy, like anchors or landmarks. Yeah, I can do that a little bit with the armpit area. So let's color pick the shadows. Oop, no, let's do it manually. Typically, I would use references for this because the anatomy in this area is pretty complicated. Learn anatomy to draw him. I mean, yeah, you eventually you learn a bit of anatomy to draw human models, but I'm not gonna memorize every single muscle. So this would be more like that. Yeah. It's like the delta pectoral connection. I don't want to get too much into the detail. I care about the lighting more than uh, doing detail anatomies. And then if we don't know if we want to do bounce light here, it'll help the form read better. But at this point, there's so much going on in the painting. It's easier to make sure that you block big pieces of light, big pieces of surface first before you deal with like tiny bounce lights or form. So big pieces like the chest has cast shadow. And then we could kind of shade the abdominals a little bit. I forgot what the oops, forgot what it looks like. Okay. So I would overdraw a little bit of the anatomy before I cover it up with what call it, like cloth or outfit. But see that there's this red here that's subsurface scattering, and put that in a little bit. So it's a little bit of that. So subsurface scattering works really well when you have like a very big piece of light and then very big piece of shadow, and then you kind of just do like a tiny area of high saturation, then just putting a bunch of subsurface scattering into different places. It's more of a balancing how much shape, small shapes and big shapes you want. So I think that's good. And then if we divide the abdomen's abdominal area, you kind of get like a divide between the top half and the bottom half. So there's usually like a heavier divot here. Maybe not that heavy. And then we get lights. Let's put in the original uh, outfit piece here. I'm not too worried about the design as much as I am with the lighting. Yeah, something like this. I can keep correcting this, but at this point I will have to cut through too much of the details in the design, or I just, wipe it. Like, uh, if I wanted, I think there's gonna be cast light here, right? We got lights coming, like I said, from top here. So we got light coming down here. It's going to be blocked by the chest, a little bit of the abdomens, but it's not going to be blocking the entire skirt unless there's another object here. So something like this. Yeah, I did say in the beginning of the Colossal course that you could use any software you want. It doesn't really matter because I just focus on the fundamentals like using simple brushes and very little layer management or tools. Imagination. I do not agree. The the memorization is a big part, like craftsmanship and like basic knowledge for stuff like anatomy, or if you draw animals and animal anatomy, or buildings like perspectives. Those are like your basic knowledge, but to make something, you kind of have to put interpretation on it, not just recreate whatever you've seen before one to one. It's pretty much impossible to do that anyway. So, yeah, I have the link in the link tree. I don't know if you can find it in YouTube. Let me grab it. I swear this is not a plug stream, but I think once you reference and you're really good at studying and copying stuff, eventually you'll move out of straight copy and you'll put your own interpretation on things. It's unavoidable. Even if you do one-to-one studies, you have to do uh like shortcuts because you can't, and you can print pixel by pixel, but it's pointless. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna move on to the next one because there's a lot. Hopefully this doesn't crash my Photoshop. Okay, so this one is supposed to be fish-eyed, fish-eyed perspective. So I'll focus only on the perspective and the anatomy instead of the style. So I can see that it's top down. So we have that. Let's make the head face up a little bit because it's really hard to look down straight if you're with a super low angle shot. So rib cage, putting rib cage in is like one of the first things I do, even sometimes before I put in the head, because that's like your main body mass. So I can see there's a putting on the wrong leg. It's important to see the like what the artist intended in the first place. So there's like a curve, right? This curve for the spine. I don't know what this is. I think it's the knee because there's like a foreshortened leg here, and I'm guessing this is the knee as well. So we'll go with that. So I like drawing the bottom of the rib cage because it puts the rib cage into perspective. And then spine. So let's keep the spine the same. I need to draw this smaller. This is not really a fisheye perspective because we have very straight lines up and down. This is a 1 or 2 point perspective. It's a really rough term to say anatomy is in a certain amount of points. That's a kind of a complicated topic. But we can put things into cylinders first because it's very easy to align things in cylinders. This is smaller than this because I'm guessing they want the elbow to be really close to the viewer. So what's a Dutch angle? I don't know, but yeah, maybe a 1 point, but we'll keep consistent with what it is right now. And there's another arm here. This is a very stacked pose, like everything's kind of on top of each other. So you really have to be able to see through things. In fact, I might have to draw this twice. This is a very weird spot because his torso is facing this way, but his leg is facing this way. And that's like a lot of stress on the joint. So I'm gonna put it towards the front a little bit. So this is with staying as close as I can. No, I don't work for a studio. I just do it for fun. It's like a hobby. So this is approximately how I would correct it straight, but the gun is pointing in a weird direction. So the palm should be this way, or like the face of the palm, where you grip the gun. So the gun would be more like this. And then this gun, assuming there's not a lot of twist in the other arm, or wrist, I mean, will be also like this. I don't know if I would want to be. Definitely not for a studio. Those people grind too much. But let's do this pose a little bit freestyle instead of looking at the reference. So that's the idea for the pose. But I think the idea of the pose can be executed a little bit better if we can reorganize the pose a little bit. Uh, about, I mean, I drawn for about 15 years, practice more seriously for about 5. Hmm. Actually, then this would block the face, so maybe this is not that good either. We'll edit this one. I think the gun positioning is pretty good. I like how it's positioned right now, but maybe I just need to clear up the anatomy a little bit. Uh, I think it should be in the stream description. Yeah, it is. Let me know if you can't see it. I really don't know where this leg is going. Because like it's a really awkward pose to cross your left knee with your right knee without it stacked on top of each other. So I don't think, without knowing what this pose is supposed to do, it's hard for me to make suggestions to change what it's supposed to look like. I have no idea how many. Uh, yeah, I mean, yes, it does, but I need to know why the legs are positioned like one much higher. Because the floor is this way, right? So the knee should be pretty much even unless this is stepping down here somewhere. And then this is, I don't know, something on something else. So now I'm making a lot of guesses. So it'll be easier to draw the entire pose and then crop. So I guess that's one of the critiques I can make. For poses that are like this, you want the outside of the pose to also be consistent. Actually, I think this is just a stylistic choice. This is not actually the upper leg. This is just like the other side of the knee. Then it would make a little bit more sense. Okay. So I'll leave it at this, and I will go to the next one. Hmm. Let me pull up some stuff first. Oh, oops. Okay. So first thing again would be anatomy. So we have the head turning sideways, so it should be a little bit more to the left. Shoulder. And then if we look at the rib cage here, we can tell that the waist is a bit too low. Could be something like this. So that's the previous waist, and I think it should be up here. And then let's just gonna put in a potential leg orientation. I think that's a new development. It still feels weird when people do that. Oh no. So the arm is a little long here, even on the previous setting. So we'll raise that a little bit. And then this one's also somewhere here. I think the arm is so long because they're aligning it to the waist. Let's keep the hand in the same position. Something like that. Head is a bit small, but I think we can chalk that up to stylization. I do not have the I do not have the right emotes and stickers at my disposal for this. So yeah, that's basically what I would fix for the anatomy overall. And we can use that to paint over. There it is. Okay. It's a very low contrast painting. I'm using a 24-inch Pluvium tablet. Actually, move this entire thing up a little. Approximately here. I think the waist would not be straight for that long of a portion. Very soft light, but then we have really sharp light here. So really sharp light here, but everything else is really soft. So I'm going to try to adjust the lighting so that it's consistent with this. Let's pick a really dark spot for lighting. See if I can do it fast. Uh, it's a bit too bright for me to work with. Let's light the arm here. So because we have strong light, we also have strong cast shadow, maybe to about here, and then this side. So everything here would be lit. And same thing with the other arm. And this arm would have cast shadow on the dress. Maybe here. So right now I'm just making sure that the lighting is consistent with the face, which is the most prominent part. Bounce light from the flowers. Cutting through a lot of the designs. And then because we're pretty bright on the top and the bottom is not really being blocked by anything else, I think. Check the original design. Actually, there's like a cape. There's like a cape in the back. So we can drop the values here. And then the cape would be lit on the right side. Yeah, it's better to build um, the lighting and the major shapes in first before going into detail, because then it takes a long time to uh, fix the lighting on things, because then I have to fix the lighting on each individual part. So this cloth right here would also be pretty bright. These are like feedback submissions that I got, so just those, and then they ask for, actually, I should probably read it. Lighting, back to composition. So composition, I should probably talk about composition on this one. I think this one lacks dynamic range, so not a lot of the bright areas, which I did pick out already, like adding the bright lights here, 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 and here would make the image a bit more interesting. But then after that, you kind of have to consider posing and framing, and that would be a really long video at that point. But let me see the changes. So I'm basically changed the range, the value range already a little bit. Like this is really bright, which is okay, but I needed to work on a lower range or a bigger range, and you can always, just squeeze the range a little bit more back to its original like values. Yeah, so now it's like very similar to the original value, but with a bit more consistency in lighting. Yeah, it's a feedback video. Most of it's just going to be feedback, so I can draw a little bit, but I just want to get through the list right now that I have. Mark the ones I did. Oh my god, we only got through 3. Okay. Um, Dynamic lighting. Okay. All right, another one. I should probably find some of these pieces that are more complete and then do like a more in-depth one, in-depth critique, because I'm blasting through these pretty fast. So dynamic lighting, I'm not 100% sure what that means. Orientation. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. I thought it was like pressed against the wall, but I thought it was um I thought it was like standing up because some of the draperies drop downwards instead of to the side. So it looks like she's standing up, but it makes sense if it's like lying down. Let's see. This one. So let's figure out the lighting first. It's definitely on top. Like we can see here. This one says it's from that way, but this one says it's from that way. And we have to be consistent a little bit there. So lights this way for this. And then this could be from here or here. So I think this one's correct, or most accurate. Yeah. And let's see what we need to change for lighting this. Actually, it'll be faster if I black and white this. Oh, no. Let's make this black and white. And we will do light coming from this direction. If that's the case, I think it's from like the side, not the front. She's kind of facing down, so the light wouldn't hit that much. Maybe this much. Maybe a little bit more actually. It will hit pretty much all the nose, like the entire nose, I think. And then cast shadow on the hair. So this hair right here. So we're gonna treat the hair like it's a sphere, or the head. And then let's do that. Yeah, bounce light is great. So the head is actually going to cast more shadow here. And then the arm, because it's in the front, it will receive more light. About there. And then we won't see much of this, I think. Maybe at the bottom, where the hand is. The hand is a bit small, but we won't worry about the anatomy here. Ambient occlusion. Terminators. We won't see this light here. This is ambient occlusion again. Bounce light. No light on the strand. Maybe at the end of it, we can make it, but we have to extend the strand a little bit. Light will probably hit this, like the hip is coming up. The shadow is casted from the arm, so the shadow will probably hit around here. And then the rest, because the light is coming from the right side, the rest would be pretty bright. Maybe cast shadow on the from the hair on the right side a little bit. This is an interesting choice. I would light the skirt like it's flaring out a little bit, like this, and then have the cast shadow. Because it's flaring out, it's blocking light from hitting the thigh. You can now do this. And that's a little bit more interesting, I think. Because then we can do that. Yeah, so I guess lighting details, I don't know if calling it dynamic is accurate. Lighting details is more about, can you think about the geometries in three-dimensional space, and then if you can trace the light uh, either on canvas or in your head to guess what the cast shadow would be or where light wouldn't hit as much. So, what? I don't know if I would do it every weekend. I will try to do it often, but I, I, I'm going to do feedbacks until I'm hungry. So, I don't, I don't mind switching brushes manually because I don't switch brushes that often. And then if we want to look at overall this painting and we want to just focus on the lighting. All right, let me see if I can do this fast. But zoom out and just start blocking in things. Like, we don't need to worry about the details here. If we want the chest to pop out that much to the right, we have to make sure the rest of the body is adjusted accordingly. And I want to take out the design as well. We can always add the design back in after the shading is completed. This is facing the other direction, so it'll get less light. So, and so is this here. The hair that curves outwards, that part would hit less light. It's facing away from the light itself. We can change the overall like hair shape, but I won't as much. Will the underside of the chest be darker? Kind of, but not much, because you get some bounce light on the bottom, unless there's absolutely nothing on this side, but there is bright areas like this. Then and there's most likely other things here that you will get a bit of illumination. And it's always nice to have terminators anyway. So one way we can make the composition a little bit more interesting is adding shapes that would have light casts in interesting areas. This should be pretty bright, actually. We can break the rules a little bit so that we get the Rembrandt triangle here. The gap between the lips is pretty dark. Like right now it's a single line, but I'm gonna do this. I'm just correcting the shape of the face in this perspective. There should be some bounce light here, but I don't think it matters too much. Like this way, if we shade in bigger shapes, it's easier to get things into perspective. So now if we drop in the eyes, so the eyes is really up here, but we can see that I'm lowering it a little bit because the angle shouldn't be that sharp. Ooh, that's still really sharp because of the brow, I think. The neck is really thin. So I think overall the neck and the head is kind of small. So I'm going to change that real quick. I think this selection should be good. So the previous base of the neck is attached towards the back of the, like it's, I'm pointing at my screen like you guys can see it. Like this is really far back. It should be about here, maybe. So I've moved the center of the base of the head or neck a little bit forward so that it aligns with the collarbone here. And also made the neck a little bit thicker. So I want separation between the back of the back strands and the front strand. And then separation between the strand here and the face. Okay, so I think, I mean, I can keep fixing this in terms of like lighting consistency, but the general idea is if you pick a light source, whether it's one or multiple light sources, then you should shade your surfaces to where it's mostly consistent with the light source. So let me make this black and white as well. So here we have, some inconsistencies with like the hair, and then this shadow here, and then this, and then I added stuff here because the lighting on the shoulder suggests that our light is from here. So if it's at an angle, it would actually hit this side of the hip and waist, and that makes for a more interesting lighting anyway. So you can see the changes here. I actually don't know the lores for most gacha games. Let's see. Do we have any more? Yeah, we have a bunch more. Okay, this one I think will be a bit fast too. So for like portrait type images like this, it's pretty important to get the shapes correct, and also have the flow of the image designed so that it tracks the viewer's eye, or it leads the viewer's eye a bit more. We won't focus on the composition here too much. Actually, let me read what's going on. Okay, any criticism. Ooh, you, okay, you are. I wasn't sure if anybody was gonna show up, but I will leave the video up. Hopefully I have time to timestamp it. But yeah, so I'll just look at the features right now for this. So this is pretty much correct. And yeah, the ear is really high. It should be down here. The neck, I mean, this is kind of nitpicking. So the face for Aizen is like a little bit out of perspective. So we're looking at here, maybe. So we wouldn't see too much of the other side of the face. And the eyebrow. So the eyebrow actually is protruded from where the eye is. The eye is, or rather, the eyebrow is more forward. And it would be closer to the middle of the, like between the eyes. And then we want to make sure that this perspective is kept throughout the entire face. Not a lot of foreshortening, so the eyebrow wouldn't dip like this. It would actually go up a little bit. And then you want to draw the rest of the head, because if you just draw the face and then you draw the hair, sometimes it will work, but sometimes you kind of get too close to where the skull is. So if the hair is flowing this way, it's actually not going to depress the back of the head as much, or much at all. So it seems like you have a habit of extending the back of the jaw, like between this angle and where the ear starts. That section is actually not super long, so not worry about the hair here. Let's worry about the. I guess we can just look at the anatomy. I'm not sure what this arm is doing. Not too sure. I think it's like he's patting him on the back. Like, good job. But I would raise the shoulder, probably. Yeah, if he's extending his arm, kind of reach over, it probably wouldn't be that high unless he's reaching up here. If he's reaching down, then it'll go this way, right? That's big arm. Yeah, so having the face just be in the right perspective kind of makes or breaks like bust type drawings because it's like a very big part of your drawing. So I wouldn't worry too much about like doing the effects until like the very end because it's okay to draw the hand and then do the effect. But you got to make sure your hand's drawn correctly. It is like a bit of anatomical inaccuracies. Like each of them don't really make a huge difference, but combined they do probably. Shoulders up here. Actually, no, shoulder is down here. Let's look at the shoulder. Oh, hi. So I think his shoulder is like dragged, the other shoulder is dragged way back. The arm is going like this, right? And then this arm is foreshortened. That's like that. And then it's coming forward, like really forward. Like this. So I think I had the same critique not too long ago, where if you have a foreshortened hand, you need to make the hand pretty big. Like, it's gonna be really close to the viewer. Like, that big. And you can make this like a compositional thing. Yeah, so compare it to the original where the hand is pretty small, even though it's extended forward. Like we can tell that the hand is extended forward because of this cylinder, and from the shoulder to the elbow joint, like that's a very it's like pointing directly to the viewer. And with that logic, we can also determine that this arm is pretty close to the viewer, like maybe halfway to the compared to this arm. So we'll make that a little bit bigger as well. And this is foreshortened a little bit. So yeah. Same thing here, but not as extreme as Ichigo. So make sure your hilt is the same uh, width as the sword, at least similar. Okay. Yeah, perspective. No, this is not mine. This is just things that other people submit. So yeah, these are the basic things I would change in the terms of this shrine. Okay. So yeah, then go to the next one. Oh, can't do the next one, but I'll do the one after that. Improve lighting and rendering. Okay. Lighting and rendering. So there is a reference for this. So I'll follow the reference a bit more. The value range for the reference is actually pretty big, and we're not hitting all the lower values here. Let's set the value here a little bit. That's like the darkest part. This is pretty dark. So for light like this, it's like spotty light. I forgot the word for it, but it's better to draw it as a single piece of light because it's one light source. So it's better to do this. And then go over the shadows that covers part of the light. Same thing here. There's like another piece of light that's we can just draw as one piece and then shade whatever's covering, like making it spotty instead of dotting your lights. I think this reads a little better. Yeah, dappled. Yes. Uh, oops. Take a while. I I don't like putting references to the side because then I stare at it too much, and that's a pretty bad habit, I think. So there's a lot of separation here because the value is different, but the value here is a bit blurred out. Let's put that in. Same thing like here. Making sure the shape is correct is pretty important. So let me point it up. See here, it's that, but this is way down. So we'll fix that part. Oh, maybe I should just use a round brush. So face shape is pretty hard to get right because if it's wrong even a little bit, you can tell. And there's like a lot of details here where, if we can look at the shapes that it's dividing, there's like a very clear line here, and then there's very clear line here, here, here. But if we look at the reference, there's not really a clear line. There's no clear line here either. So there's no reason to put this in. And we also got light on the other side of the nose. That means this light is pretty soft, at least where it's hitting right now. I mean, rendering draperies is just recognizing the different surfaces and then taking your time with it. There's not much complication with it. Oh, so this is in front, this beam, but getting covered here. So I think that might be me, but we'll make that clearly in the back, and we can do that by using like shadow from the beam itself. Mm. The stuff here is more like structural drawings here. I can go over that a little bit, but it's like, are you good at drawing geometric shapes? Mm. And then it goes like I can tell they spent a lot of time detailing this, but it's easier. Like I can go in and lay it out, right? But it will also be easier if you did this. So this would follow that vanishing point. Like if you really want to detail out these structures, this is one of the best ways to do it. So that I'm lining these things up because I know they're the same height in the reference. So if I have a perspective like vanishing line, I can make sure it lines up every single time. And I can tell the difference, like the distance between this and this. Like it's pretty even. Center this. Yeah, so these would be more of a structural drawing. The whole thing is tilted a little bit. Let me correct the top part. Oops. Yeah, and then you paint following that. You can sometimes, I mean, you can paint it straight if you can kind of see these guidelines just like overlaid on the back of your head. But if not, then you can just do line work first. Let's see. I think that's about all I'll do for feedbacks today. But I'll paint something real quick. Um, it's just randomly picked. Oh, it's like 7 and no, I don't know what I'm painting right now. So sometimes I just put stuff down. Uh, that's good. Practicing with brown brush is very good. Yes. There are a lot of different kinds actually, and there's hold on, grab the link. Because you get to draw what you want to draw. That's why I try to draw other things before I get to the character itself. Yeah, for like a year for me. Uh, I don't think I have a main one. Mm, I didn't look too much into art history, so I don't even know. I just like specific pieces. Best time for study. Depends on what you're studying. How many hours? And I think how many hours depends on people. Some people can't stand studying, and then there are people who like actually studying. You can kind of combine the two sometimes. Like you can draw what you want while it being a study still. But how much time is hard to say. Some people burn out faster than others. And then, everybody has different schedules. So when I don't. Oh, uh, I guess whenever. I don't have a set time for that. Yeah, I just do that whenever. I think this one's going nowhere, so